Welcome back to One Winning Pod. The Ravens, the Bills. The game we've been talking about, I feel like, since we first got the schedule. And we even knew we were playing them before we got the schedule. It's officially happening. It's not prime time. It's a 1 o'clock game. But it feels like a game that will be of very high interest for the whole league. The two best quarterbacks in the league, some would say probably, going after each other. Bills are a 4-point favorite visiting the Ravens, and it's a 51.5 over-under right now in the sports books. And I'm curious to see how that plays out. But we have with us tonight CJ to talk about the Bills and give his perspective on the team. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back. We did this not too long. Well, last year, 2 years ago.
It was when you guys beat us in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Oops.
Yeah.
Oops, but not oops.
Oh, man. Well, you guys didn't win the Super Bowl that year either, so all's forgiven.
Yeah, well, you know.
We didn't have the pleasure to talk to you about it last year in the playoffs, and I think we were all rooting for you at one point, and we're very disappointed to see how it all went down.
Heartbreaking. But when you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you get used to stuff like that. So,
yeah, I imagine it felt like the Dolphins game for us, but the difference was that it was the home crowd, right? Like KC was at home, or was Bills?
It was in KC.
Yeah, it was in KC. That's why
that was in KC.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It wasn't like the home field. Like the home field team had to deal with that. That'd been
right.
I don't know if Buffalo would still be on the map.
It's a little bit different.
I feel like I'd compare it more to that 2014 playoff game of the Ravens in Foxborough.
I think that's more apt.
Yeah.
Or 2019 in Tennessee. Well,
no.
Anyways, Alec is in some weird land. We'll
it's
bring
a weird land.
I don't. Alec's making comparisons that are not apt. We were comparing oranges to vacuum cleaners over here. But anyways. So CJ, I think
have a great rest of the show.
Hey, yeah, right.
I think a great way to get this back on track would, 3 weeks into the season, what's your impression of the Bills been so far?
So far, actually, I thought we looked better than I thought we would against the Rams. And Tennessee, because Tennessee is always one of our Achilles heels, but they shut those two teams down pretty good, and I was very happy with it. Unfortunately, along the way, we lost our defensive backfield, and that's gonna be a hard thing to overcome. So we'll see how it goes against the Ravens. Thankfully, not thankfully. Thankfully, their passing game's not like Miami's, but it's not bad. So it's not like we're getting a break, but we're gonna have to see how we can handle that. We need to get pressure, lots and lots of pressure on Lamar and not let him run. So I like our team. I hope we can come back from, I know Trey Day will be back week 5, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that would help immensely. Jordan Poyer's injury doesn't seem like it's going to be multiple games, so that's a good thing. And then a couple of the other guys will be back shortly too. So, but it's, losing Micah for the season is a big deal for us. Having the two best safeties in the NFL, as far as I'm concerned, at least up there. When you lose one, that's hard to overcome for us, especially the way they build their defense. Hopefully, we'll be able to win a few of these games coming up and keep afloat going forward. I mean, the offense should keep us going, because the offense is running on all cylinders except for last weekend. But during the football season, you're going to have those types of lulls, and I'll take that as a lull. Just move on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll start with talking about the offense, and we got to start with talking about the quarterback, Josh Allen, which it's so crazy to me, and I think to a lot of people, just how this guy is transformed from, I remember the first time Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen played back in 2019 up in Buffalo. Obviously, Jackson was in the midst of his MVP season, and the Bills, Allen was trying to figure stuff out, and he would make some highlight plays every now and again, but was pretty inconsistent. And start of 2020, that all changed. And it's funny now, we're just seeing on Twitter, after every time Josh Allen has a big game, people will bring up all these, tweets from like 2017 and 2018, or I guess, 2018 was when it was drafted, of, people saying like, oh, the Bills wasted a pick, why'd they get this guy? And it's just like, everyone thought that. Like, I even remember when we were talking with you, you were like, yeah, I like this guy's potential, but I mean, if you look back at that now, I mean, what has really changed for this guy to transform from a guy who could make plays but was inconsistent to arguably one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league?
Well, it was fairly publicized between 19 and 20. He spent his offseason working on accuracy. And, that was his Achilles, not Achilles heel, but that was his bugaboo. He wasn't accurate. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't. I mean, he had that Favre thing, throw the ball as hard as you can, as far as you can, and see what happens. And, to be fair, the offense wasn't ready for prime time. They didn't have the skill players that could help them. The line wasn't as good, and over the years, especially, they used the draft in 18, 19, 20 to build the offense and then the defense. But the offense first, and they've got a lot of help for him. And, and he put in the work too. He put in the offseason work both years, before 20, before 21. And, obviously before this season, and now, with all the help around him there. And I'll tell you, every time he throws a pass, you're like, wow, there's no way he would have made that pass 3 years ago. No way. And, he's dropping these things right on everybody. And it's just been very impressive to see his development over the last few years. I'm very happy. Yeah, I thought it was a decent pick because we need a quarterback, but I didn't think he would be our quarterback now. I thought it would be a year or two, and then we'd move on like we did with several other quarterbacks, just because of the accuracy and inconsistency that he had coming out of college. But I'm glad he came around, because he's a huge asset now.
For sure. It's incredible. If you look at his stats, in 19, his completion percentage was 58.8. And I don't know if anyone has this kind of quantum leap when you're looking at the amount of attempts to the next year go to 69.2.
Yeah.
And the more important part is the yards per attempt goes from 6.7 to 7.9. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's the game changer right there. So
right. Yeah, and I think they're averaging 9 yards now this year.
Oh yeah, like it's pretty wild. This year he's reported at 71% completion. And the other thing that's really dramatic as well is that in 2019 he only had 20 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He went to 37 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So for one more interception, he got 17 more touchdowns.
I'll take that ratio any day, any year.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. It's just watching him play. I mean, it's just, to compare him to Lamar Jackson. I mean, I know they're both, very great quarterbacks, but for Josh Allen, every time I see him in the pocket, it's amazing at how he can and I don't want to throw this word out badly because I'm not disparaging him, but you can almost stand back there, almost like a statue of just waiting for something to get open. And then immediately you just see this ball ripping down the field at a completion. It's just amazing at how quickly he can kind of recognize oh, okay, this is where I got to go. And then boom, he makes that decision. And it's just it's so quick, be able to get the ball where he needs it to go. That arm strength is just incredible. And, I think the Bills have done a really good job of building an offensive line that's really good at pass protection. Because I feel like a lot of, at least the plays that I've seen for Allen, he has the time to be able to make those reads. And, he's not the same player as Lamar, because I think Lamar's ability is more of the let's escape the pocket and be able to make a big play, be able to shift around. Allen can do some of those things, but I do think where he's best is where he can kind of sit back, diagnose the field, and then if he can find Gabe Davis or somebody running down deep, be able to rip it 50, 60 yards. I think that's probably at least for me, like I think that's kind of like one of Josh Allen's like greatest abilities. There is really just be able to throw those deep ones.
Yeah, actually, he's nearly unstoppable when he rolls right. When he gets out, when he breaks the pocket and goes right, I don't think he's ever really missed much in those plays. In broken plays, yeah, because you're right. When you see Gabe going downfield or Stephon coming across the field, but when he breaks the pocket and goes right, it's amazing how many completions he has doing that. And I saw a breakdown of that, and it was like, you don't even realize it when you're watching the game. You're just watching the game. Yesterday he was 11 of 11 before he threw his, he had 11 completions before he threw his first incomplete pass. And he was running for his life a couple of those times. Miami's defensive line's pretty good. They got after him. You guys saw it the week before that, them getting after Lamar. They're a decent defensive front. And but he would escape that pocket. He would get rolling right, especially. And he does left. Normally when he goes to his left eye, he ends up running, I think. But he's great out of the pocket going to the right, and just extends those plays that ultimately you benefit from, because guys aren't covering people that long.
And one of the things that really helps him in that situation, and you alluded to it when you were discussing the transformation that he's had, is just the plethora of receiving options that he has to throw to. Diggs came over from Minnesota, and the pairing with him and Allen, if we're going to talk about how Allen has ascended to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league, we got to talk about how Stephon Diggs has come from being, a solid complementary speed receiver to one of the best all-around wide receivers in the league now. And then in addition to Diggs, you have Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie has stepped up, and Dawson Knox as well from the tight end position, and the running backs Singletary and Moss can catch as well. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup. We talked about in the recap of the Patriots episode, the Ravens obviously beat up on the secondary a little bit with the loss of Kyle Fuller, having Armour Davis and Pepe Williams play a little more than they would want them to, playing them a little out of position than what you would really want to at this stage in their career. Yeah, the Bills are bringing a lot of playmakers that it's going to be interesting to see what McDonald wants to do to match up with these guys. So, I mean, I guess to start this discussion, because I do want to talk about this matchup, CJ, outside of Diggs, who do you think is the most dangerous playmaker for the Bills?
That's a good question, because I think it changes every week. McKenzie came out and had, was it 2 or 3 I forget now, against Tennessee, or against Miami. He had 2 touchdowns against Miami. And then, the first week, Singletary was catching a lot out of the backfield that opened up a lot of the other guys. And then Davis is just coming back from injury. So that was his first game. He only played a little bit in the game yesterday. Yes. And so, honestly, I think Davis ultimately will be the guy that becomes the benefit of having Stephon take out whoever, is going to be the number one cover guy for whatever team they play, if they choose to man up on him. But it's amazing. A few years ago, we had Cole Beasley, and Beasley was that guy. Beasley was the one guy who got everything that was, all the garbage stuff, kind of like Cooper Kupp kind of does with the Rams last year. He caught everything. And now that, so I think Diggs pulls away a lot of the coverage, and then you're going to have Gabe Davis, I think, with his height and everything, take some of the glory, in that secondary role.
Yeah, Gabe Davis has had an outstanding yards per reception, and we all remember what he did in the playoffs and how dynamic he was there. And yeah, McKenzie and a couple appearances last year when Beasley was out, we saw him kind of pop off as a slot receiver option. It looks like he's doing it all over again this year, and kind of botting out Jameson Crowder, who's the other, I guess, more veteran presence in the wide receiver room. Yeah, and kind of demanding more targets. So it's really cool for your guys to have so many options, and also Dawson Knox as well, knocking around and making himself available. So, yeah, definitely a lot of high quality pass catchers. There'll be a handful for the Ravens.
Yeah, well, I think they said that Allen completed passes to 10 different receivers yesterday, so that he uses everybody. Crumrow, who did get hurt during the game, but he'll be back. He was only mildly hurt. They threw to Zach, they threw to Singletary. They got so many guys to be able to throw to. It can be anybody, but I think Davis will be the ultimate beneficiary.
Yeah, when I look at how the Bills' receiving corps matches up against the Ravens secondary, I will say Davis is the one that I think has the most chance outside of Diggs to give the Ravens some issues. We saw against Miami just Waddle's ability to catch the jump ball and get physical in that point gave the secondary some issues. And just last week, Devontae Parker gave the Ravens some fits. Parker is a bigger receiver. I think I looked it up. He's like 6'2", 218. Davis might be like an inch shorter and 10 pounds lighter, but similar build. Big guy. Davis, I'd say, would be faster, but I also don't think the key is, okay, the Ravens shut down Gabe Davis, because like you're saying, they do that. They can go underneath to McKenzie. They can throw it. Maybe they'll throw a jump ball to Jake Kumaro, who's been catching some passes. Although I think he might have. Did he get hurt in the last game?
He did, and I haven't heard. I didn't think it was serious, but I haven't heard.
Yeah. Not that he's the make or break player for you guys, but I mean that's just how deep you guys are. If the Ravens shut down everyone else, you could throw him out there. You guys like to throw in a lineman as an eligible receiver and throw that in the goal line. So it's
whatever works.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I'm really excited to see what the Ravens scheme up there, because that's going to be a huge matchup on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I am interested to hear your take about the offensive line, though. I'll admit, I haven't watched the Bills' offensive line closely, and they really seemed to me to struggle against Miami. So I was interested in Chris's take, because I'm guessing in the previous two games they must have actually held up pretty well. Because it seemed to me that Allen did not have many clean pockets to work from on Sunday. But overall, yeah, what has the Bills' offensive line been from a pass protection standpoint? Am I correct? They struggled against Miami, but have been pretty solid outside of that? Yeah,
they've been pretty solid. I mean, we faced up against Aaron Donald the first week, and while he did get a couple sacks, Allen was upright, most of the game. They passed that first test, and Tennessee isn't obviously as strong up front, so I wasn't worried about that. Their offensive line is much improved. However, yesterday before the game started, Mitch Morris. They ruled Mitch Morris out at center.
Oh, okay.
So he did not play yesterday. And then they lost their second center about early in the third quarter, I think. Mm-hmm. So they were playing with a third center most of the second half. Now, early in the game, they got to Allen, which surprised me a little bit. So I thought maybe they didn't scheme completely for that. But later in the game, as guys got tired and were cramping and linemen were coming in and out. I know they substituted a lot of linemen in the second half. And, that's kind of more when things really went haywire for the offense. They were still able to make plays, but it wasn't nearly as consistent as it was in the first half. They had that long drive at the end of the first half. But it just didn't. They just didn't play up to par in the second half, and I'm hoping whatever. I didn't look up what Morris. I thought it might have been a sickness or something, but I didn't hear what happened to Morris. I was really surprised to hear he wasn't playing. So that kind of threw everything for a loop. You got your quarterback of the offensive line not playing, so that did hurt us.
Well, fortunately for you guys, it shouldn't be 80, 90 degrees in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So, you probably shouldn't have to worry too much about cramping or guys, swapping out because of that. But I did one kind of last thing I wanted to ask around for the offense. So I think the big thing I think is that the Bills don't really have like a guy at running back. It's running back by committee, and they're all kind of behind Josh Allen. I thought for sure that the Bills they have to find a running back at some point to complement Allen. And I thought maybe it was Zach Moss, not Zach Moss. James Cook, maybe that guy. I don't know. For you, CJ, do the Bills have to have a run game? And if so, who's the guy for you that you see kind of taking that position? Because I just have no idea.
Being an old school football fan, you have to have a running game. I don't care what team you are. You always have to have a running game. If for anything, to be able to run the clock out at the end of a game and keep the ball away from the other team. And I think everybody here can relate to that. But I think Singletary is going to be their number one guy for a while. I was surprised a little bit last year because I thought Moss was going to come in and take the job from him. He's a little bit bigger, but Singletary's a tough guy. And he kept his job. He kept the number one slot for a committee. But and then they drafted Cook, and I think they drafted Cook with the intention of taking over for Singletary eventually. But he's a young kid. His first carry against the Rams was a fumble. So, and then he didn't come back until the third quarter of that game. So he played well after that, but and played well against Tennessee. But he's going to see spot duty until I think they're more comfortable with him and giving him the ball. But it's going to be Moss and Singletary, and I think it's Singletary that takes that role for now. And I think if you watch the last three games, you could tell that they kept him in more, gave him more of the work. He's reliable for sure. He's got a little pop. He can squirt through the hole, get loose occasionally, and I just think that's the way it's going now. But it is a committee, and so he'll get probably 45% of the carries, and Moss will get another 40 or so or whatever, and Cook will clean up whatever they have left. They have a fullback that they do use. And he can catch passes too. So, he's a guy that caught 2 or 3 passes this past weekend. So, they're gonna. I think they're gonna use Singletary as their main guy.
I was definitely surprised to see that. I don't know what you guys' original plan was, but it definitely seemed like Cook lost a lot of confidence after those early, fumbles and foils, and a lot of his touches came from the end of games when the game was already out of hand. So, just looking at the stats alone, you would think, it's a three-headed backfield, but really it's really just Singletary and Moss, like you said, and a little bit of Cook at the end, which is definitely not, I think, what they intended with spending a second-round pick on Cook. And I think as time goes on and he gets more comfortable with the NFL game and his responsibilities, he'll get more and more action. But I'm really thinking that this running game is going to be the key to the game for you guys, because there's a decent chance that it's raining and kind of crappy weather in Baltimore. So if that's the case, there's a chance that the pass game gets slowed down, it gets a little sloppier, and you might have to lean more on a running game. And we know that's not the strength of your offense. Not to say it's a complete weakness, but it's definitely not what you want to be doing.
Yeah, I would hesitate to say that they won't throw the ball as much. I don't think that's I don't think they care. Their offense, I think they built the offense to be able to run whenever they want it to. You're going to have conditions sometimes, hurricane conditions, or of course they play in Buffalo. It's not like it's going to be 75 and balmy every game, but but I think it's designed to be able to withstand the weather that they have up there. And rain certainly will affect it, but I really think they'll just try and run their offense. Yeah, they'll take what the Ravens will give them. That's that's the one thing I think that they have learned over the years is to just take what they can get and work against what shows up across the line. So yeah, I think if it's raining, sure they'll run the ball, but Allen's another running back, so
Yeah.
yeah. It's like trying to scheme for Lamar. He's going to run the ball. You just got to figure out who's going to spy him and who's going to be able to get to him.
Yeah, speaking of scheming for Lamar, in a just windstorm of a playoff game last year, you guys did a pretty good job of keeping the offense in check. And, I'll be honest, it's harder to keep tab of defensive players and how many are still there or gone from the previous time. I mean, obviously, you guys have some injuries, so that's some of it. But just even looking at that game 2 years ago, or looking at the defensive side of the ball, how much has that unit changed, or is it pretty much intact from that game?
Actually, it has changed a little bit. Most of the guys up front are still around, with a couple exceptions. But they've kept a few of their veterans, but most of the guys like Russo and those guys are all new, drafted last year or this year, and they've even 2 years ago, and they even had a different philosophy up front. Their philosophy this year is to keep everybody fresh. So there's a ton of defensive linemen that rotate through, and so they're not as tired, when you get to the third and fourth quarter. That's the way they've decided to keep their defensive line fresh. So not everybody's playing all the time. We added Von Miller, so it gives us another threat from the other side, which makes, he's coming from the left, that makes the right side better because there's not enough, can't double team everybody. So, hopefully that's the case. Who knows what's going to happen with the Raven left tackle position this week. I mean, seems to be that maybe the first big guy that walks through the gates, they'll suit up.
It's a new guy every week so far.
Yeah, exactly. So, so you have those things that are interesting to watch this week. But, that's part of the beauty of the game, and it's part of the beauty of, having Lamar back there too. He's got to expect something coming. So we have to keep an eye on him and spy him so that we can, keep them contained as much as we can, at least. But the linebackers, still Milano and Edmonds, and they're playing very well. Milano's having a great year so far, and he's the old guy of the bunch. Edmonds this is his fourth year. I want to say fourth year, could be his fifth, but I think it's his fourth year because they haven't talked extension yet. But they're much better. Edmonds is much better than he was 2 years ago. He was just flying around the field a couple of years ago, just chasing everything. And this year he's the quarterback of the defense. He's playing very well in the middle.
Yeah, I remember both Edmonds and Milano being really key in the playoff win where you guys defeated us last year. I remember talking during that game before that about how maybe the linebackers being the weak spot on that defense, and could the Ravens confuse them with play action? And the answer was no.
Mm-hmm.
Milano was a guy I think who played really well in run support and just was really great as like the spy, quote unquote, for Lamar. I think he really kind of did well in that assignment. And then Edmonds was just played really well, especially on defending the pass. I believe he had a few pass deflections in that game as well. So, for me, I feel like the Ravens have done pretty well so far in pass protection. Not to say that, they can do worse. They definitely can do worse. But they've done fairly well in pass protection. So I'm not as worried about the defensive line, maybe outside of like a few matchups, but I think that they can be dealt with. It's really the linebackers, I think, for me, are, again, just going to be the key to this game. They could definitely do some damage if the Ravens aren't careful. Lamar has been generally pretty good at making good decisions, but that's, I think, for me, like there have been games in Lamar's career where, I think good players at different layers at the defense, I think, can give him a little bit of fits. And for me, those are the guys.
The one thing that's really concerning me is this pass rush. You guys already have 11 sacks on the year, and you've got Gregory Rousseau with 3.5 sacks. Of course, your big offseason acquisition in Von Miller has 2 sacks. AJ Espinosa has 1.5. Basham, who you guys drafted this year, I believe he has 1. So, or maybe he was last year. I can't remember. But anyways, just a lot of picks in the last couple of years of these dynamic pass rushers that can get home, plus the acquisition in the offseason. So 11 sacks. We only have 7 this year. And, it's like 50% more. So it's pretty impressive.
We did not blitz once in the Rams game. We had 7 sacks.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's been their goal, is not to commit too many people to the rush so that they can cover the pass. It's been their defensive goal this year. Now that doesn't help us very much if Lamar runs, because if we're chasing wide receivers and people around and aren't watching the backfield and someone can't get to Lamar when he starts running, then he may run for a while. But that also, if that's the case where we get pressure with 4, and then we can spy him. It might give us the ability to spy him and have one guy dedicated, kind of to where he's at. So we'll see what happens with that. Of course, it's now we're in the 4th. They're coming up on the 4th game of the season. We do have injuries. I think Epinesa was hurt. One of the other guys went down. But who knows what we're going to look like. I know our defensive backfield is going to be decimated. So that's one of the reasons why we have to get pressure. One of the reasons why, if we can hurry Lamar up, if we can, get him uncomfortable, then that would only help our defensive backfield. That's what I'm hoping for.
I think one of the biggest surprises about your team, looking at it, and maybe it changed since the first week, but I remember hearing on the broadcast, Benford was getting more snaps than your first-round pick, Kyrie Elam. He was a 6th-round pick. Is that kind of maintained the same? How's he been playing?
Yeah, but he has a hamstring issue now. So that happened this past week as well. So, it depends. This week will depend on what happened in the game last week. And so, you may see Elam more. Well, you're going to see Elam more this week. You're going to see, these guys that are either nickel guys or whatever, they're going to be playing corner. And that's going to be kind of scary. It's just like the Ravens situation. They have a couple guys go down, and now you have guys that you didn't expect to be playing so much in roles that they have to perform. They have to make plays. It's always the case in football.
Yep.
It's you're either lucky or you're not. Last year we went through the year. Our only major loss was Tre'Davious White, and with our roster, we were able to overcome that very, very well. This year we're struggling early, so that's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this weather impacts this game, because how we're talking about both the injuries that you guys have on defense and the Ravens. Well, surprisingly, not as many injuries, but still definitely some holes that they're trying to cover. On paper, this looks like this should be a shootout. The game total that could go easily over 70. But yeah, we might see this weather cause some issues with that. We might have another defensive struggle like 2 years ago. Who knows? So yeah, I'm trying to think in the event of weather, does that more so benefit the Bills or the Ravens? The obvious answer, or I should say, the first thing that I would think of would be the benefit Baltimore, because, a little bit more of a track record of running. But even though, we saw some improvements with the run game against the Patriots, it's still not quite to where we want it to be. Hopefully it will be for us as we talked about, there were some definite improvements that happened that look like they're going to be able to build upon and get that part of the game back on track. But at the same time, you just never know. I have a feeling that there's going to be some things. This game's going to have a game flow that we're not expecting. Just these two teams have too many good players and too good at coaching staffs for this game to be a blowout on either side. It's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of back and forth in this one.
I sat there before the Miami Buffalo game thinking this is going to be 41-40 because we don't have a defensive backfield. And Miami's got Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and it's going to be, and we can score. Our offense has proven it could score. And to see it come out 21-19, I was stunned, completely stunned. And I'm thinking the same thing this week. I have the same thought you have. This could be a really high-scoring game. You got the fact that we don't have a defensive backfield, and everybody knows it, and it's not like you can hide it. Everybody's out, and then you have our side of the ball where we got a decent offense, and it might be raining, but I think they'll still throw the ball and whatever, and maybe we can take advantage of that. And I think you're right. I think it's going to be, maybe 17-23 or something. It's going to be one of those games where, something's going to happen, and it's going to, you're going to have a game that you just did not expect.
Yeah, I was thinking that today as well. Just, you would think it's going to be this barn burner, like you said, Peter, like over 70 points, like just nuts. And at the same time, I thought the exact same thing about what the game was last week, and it was 40 points, and I asked you, like, hey, did you guys win? Like, not even trying to be facetious or anything. I just didn't know. And then you told me the score, and I was like, what?
Exactly.
Did Allen stub his toe? Like,
the look on your face was priceless. Huh? Exactly. It was disappointing. I expected, we had 4th and goal. Well, we had the ball at the goal line for four plays, and we couldn't get it into the end zone.
Oh, you guys too?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's funny because if we had a touchdown, that would have been great. We would have gone ahead, but we couldn't go for a field goal. We were 4 points behind. Well, we didn't make the 4th down play, and our defense held. They had first down from the 2-yard line. Our defense held them to losing half a yard. They actually backed up. I actually thought we had a safety, but we didn't get the safety until the punt. But
right.
But the punt, the punt was the guy hit a huge punt. We ended up at the 23-yard line, and we made mistakes when we were trying to run get into field goal range, and that, for the life of me, I don't know where the holding call came from, because the flag was thrown after we got into the huddle. So that backed us up 10 yards, and then we just didn't execute, and I think that's I don't know if you saw the video, Ken Dorsey beating up the
how could you not?
The coach's room. But, if that were me, there wouldn't have been a coaching room left to go to. But anyway, I mean, it's so frustrating to watch a team that operates that well. I mean, they were flawless in their first 2 games. And they had pressure this game, but they still made a lot of good plays, and they still made a lot of their, 60-some percent, 68% of their third downs. Something like that. I mean, they still did really well. The yardage was 497 to 212. I mean, we outplayed them completely.
That sounds so familiar.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and trust me, I've been to those. I go to the Ravens games. When I'm not at Bills games, so it's I see that too, and it's like, wow, how did they not lose, or how did they not win? Yeah. And just the mistakes at crucial moments. They did the same thing in the second half that they did in the first half with the clock running down. We could have had a field goal at the end of the first half, and the clock ran out. Almost identically, and the same thing happened in the fourth quarter. So, it's third game of the season. Yeah, you still got things to clean up, but those are the things that you should not have to worry about. So some of it's, and as a Bills fan, it's a very pessimistic fandom for me. I always, it's like, oh God, we got to play the Ravens this week. Now you got this going on. Now you got so it's hard. It's hard and it's on the road. And the Ravens have always been our bugaboo. We've only got a couple wins against the Ravens over the years. So it's really hard to sit there and say, well, I mean, I don't know how we're favored by 4. It's just mind-boggling.
Wow. I thought that line was about right. I was trying to figure it out before I looked it up, and I was like, I think the Bills would be favored, but by how much? And my thought was maybe it'd be by 2 points. So 4, it's a little.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought 2 points maximum.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, gosh, what was the game last week? Okay, so not the same, but Titans Raiders. Opposite end of the spectrum of Bills and Ravens, but both those teams, you look at that and pretty very similar situations, and that was game 1.5, and that turned out to be perfect because that game was 2 points. But yeah, it feels like that. It's just like you look at paper, both these teams, a lot of offensive talent, defensive, a lot of good players there, but a lot of holes due to injury too. So yeah, I think the 4-point spread does seem a bit high at the moment. So bet Ravens right now if you can get it.
Yeah.
Oh man. On that note, do we want to get into our score and bold predictions?
Sure thing.
All right, CJ, you're the guest, so you get the option to go first or to defer.
I'll defer.
All right. So, yeah, I guess I'll start out with the score prediction. And, yeah, I think it's going to be close. I'll admit it, 2 weeks ago, I was really thinking the Bills are going to come in here and they might win by as much by a touchdown. But, I don't know. I like the adjustments I saw from the Ravens against the Patriots, understanding that the Patriots are not as good of an opponent as Miami, but still. It's going to be close. I'm going to say 24-23 Ravens. And my bold prediction is that Josh Allen will throw for more turnovers than he does touchdown passes.
Oh, wow.
I love it.
It might be a little disrespectful to Josh Allen, but the Ravens have gotten a lot of turnovers this year.
So you're saying throwing for interceptions than touchdowns?
More interceptions than touchdowns, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll follow up with that. I'm with you, Peter. The first 2 weeks, I would have said Bills. Actually, that's a lie. I can't say that. I'd probably say Ravens anyway. But I would have felt not as confident about saying the Ravens, even though I would say them anyway. But I mean, after both those stinkers against Miami, any given Sunday. So I'll continue with picking the Ravens, as you should, as a homer pod. I'm with you though. I think it's going to be really close. I think it could be less than a field goal. If we didn't have the weather situation, I'd say that I could really imagine this game being like the playoff game against the Chiefs last year, of just a shootout, because right now that's kind of, it seems like where it's headed. The Ravens are really good on offense. The Bills are really good on offense. I know the Bills are having issues on defense, so they're kind of about the same as the Ravens. So it could be one big play that kind of decides this game. I'll say it's a little bit more higher scoring. I was thinking like 36-35 Ravens. My bold prediction, I know we didn't really talk about this too much, but we are recording after our recap episode, so I feel inspired. I'm going to say that Odafe Owe gets a sack fumble to decide this game. Man.
Echoes of the Chiefs game last year.
Yeah, the score, the Owe, it's at home. Good grief. If it only was at night. All right, so I'm going to start with the bold prediction. I think the key to the game is going to be, God, I hate saying it, but I think I'm honest. I'm going to be honest. I think the key to the game is our linebackers need to be better in the second level and get in the way of passing lanes to give our, defensive backs a chance against this explosive offense. I don't think they'll be consistent about it, but I think when it counts, Queen's going to get an interception.
Ooh. Like he could have had one last week, just had a little bit of butterfingers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And like I mean, like I said, I think they'll be inconsistent, but I think going off the theme of last episode of maybe they give up yards, maybe it's not pretty, but they get these high leverage plays, turnovers that can really change the game. I want to break from the trend of this like 1 point victory for the Ravens. I'm going to say that the game is going to be very close, but the score will not. I think the Ravens win by 8. So they win 31-20, or I guess what, 31-24? No. Yeah. That's 7 points.
23.
Yeah.
23.
But 23 is like, that's ridiculous, so no. So 31. 30,
I don't think that's scoregami.
It's not a scoregami. I just think it's unlikely. So
Gotta get Alex some sleep after this recording.
Yeah, whatever.
Been a long weekend.
I'm still laughing at I'm still laughing at comparing oranges to vacuum cleaners.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a great line, Peter.
Every now and again, we get a pretty good soundbite from this.
Keeper. Well, it's on me, huh?
Yeah, you can't defer now, CJ. So
I'm not deferring. I'm not deferring. I have been told by many of my friends that I actually have to embrace the fact that we're good.
You should. I mean, you're making it sound like you're talking about, I don't know, the Dallas Cowboys. Like,
well, it's hard. It's hard. It's been hard to accept that. However,
sure, yeah.
Because we've been disappointed before. A few times. But I really think that they finally have gotten the right coaching, the right leadership at the GM level, the right leadership in the owner's box, and the right leadership on the field, to where I can actually accept the fact that, hey, we're good. We're going to have stinker games every once in a while. Everybody does. But I think that this game's going to be, I want to say 34-23 Buffalo, and Gabe Davis. I have a bold prediction and a no kidding prediction. The bold prediction, I think Gabe Davis is going to have a big day. I think he's going to have a couple touchdowns, and I think he's going to have over 100 yards, and I think he's going to have just throw fits for the Ravens. I do think that we'll have a couple turnovers that because the Ravens defense has been creating interceptions all over the place. I think that's a possibility. But the no kidding thing is that Harbaugh is going to go for it on a 4th down situation that he doesn't belong trying, and we're going to stuff him. And I think that's a no-brainer.
I think it's a no-brainer. We'll go for it on 4th. Yeah, I think that.
I think we'll stuff them on one of them. I'm sure.
I'm sure. Yeah. It'll definitely be one of those games where it's like,
it just happens all the time now.
Well, it's weird too, because if you're between the 40s, at least like the front 40, that's Tucker range. So you're like really you're flirting with it, but like the EV is like, yeah, you should go for it. So. It's definitely tricky. So we'll see what they do. And I agree with you, though. It's going to be a very maybe the weather will matter, because maybe you'd be like, all right, the wind's swirling, it's wet, let's just go run the ball. Like maybe the running game is working. Who knows? But yeah, we'll see. I think I wonder what the Vegas line is for 4th down attempts, but I feel like
that'd be good to look into.
I'm taking the over.
I like it. Yeah, because we'd go for it on 4th down a bit too, but I have to embrace. I have to embrace the fact that we're decent. So
you should, man. Be proud of your team.
Oh, I'm proud of us. I'm proud of our team. It's just hard to get into that mindset. It's just hard for me.
Yeah. You should try a podcast, CJ, because then you could just have Homer takes all the time like
right.
us.
You're right.
It really helps.
I think the Bills are going to kick ass this week. Yeah.
And there are so many props in this game, but like total 4th down conversions. Okay, here we go. There's a conversions option. Over 1.5. Yeah, I'm taking the over.
Oh, I'd take the over in that one.
That sounds like a fun prop. Yeah, it's at plus 135.
I think that's a no-brainer.
And then the third down conversions is over 11.5, which I have no context on, if that makes sense or not.
No, that makes sense. That would be hard to predict.
So that's the only prop it seems like you can do in that regard. You can't just guess how many they go for. But I guess what they're saying is it's implying that there'll at least be 2. You know?
Yeah. I think there'd be at least 2 in the first half. I mean, the way that both teams use that fourth and short. I mean, we go for it a lot.
You've had 6 fourth down attempts, and you've converted 4 of them.
Against Miami?
Just in general. That's for the whole season.
Okay. I thought it was.
But I mean, hey, like having 6 fourth down attempts in games that you've won handily, except for one, shows the aggression that you guys play with.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it's gotten more so over the years. You know, it's that offense with Allen becoming more comfortable. It's very similar to what you see with Lamar. Now, Lamar's more comfortable with his legs. Allen can use his legs too. It's not like he doesn't run. But I think Allen waits to make sure that he can get there, before he takes off. I mean, Lamar's just a pure runner. So,
but yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a very interesting game.
Yeah,
and can't wait.
I can't wait for the whole day. I'm going to get down there about 6 a.m.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
God, we got up our game. Apparently, the tailgates are starting at 6 a.m. this time.
You'll be opening up the place.
No, that's the thing. Between 6:30, all the Bills fans will be down there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And because that's normal in Buffalo. So.
Oh man, adjust, yeah. Chris. When we get down there, I'm gonna tell Correspondent K-Fish we're getting down there at 7. We might get there by 10 this time.
I was gonna say, I think K-Fish is gonna be the long leg on that. So 6 a.m. is awfully early, but
yeah.
It's we used to. I remember living up there. We used to cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner up there. We never went anywhere. Never had a reason to go anywhere. It's just like, hey, we're coming for the game, and that's it. The RV lot opens on Tuesday night, Wednesday. They're there for the week.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, it's an event.
That's awesome. Well, really cool, CJ. Thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again later this season.
No problem.
Implies playoffs. It implies success for our teams, and
absolutely
another fun game for sure.
And if we don't win, of course, I hope the Ravens do. For down the road,
of course,
not this week.
Well, thanks guys for listening to the show. You can find us on Twitter at OneWinningPod, and you can email us onewinningpod@gmail.com. You can also find us on YouTube now. Check out the Ravens History Corner. And I don't know if, Peter, do you want to tease anything about that?
So, I am still a little uncertain about exactly what we're going to be talking about this week, but I think what we're going to be talking about is, let me see how I can create this idea, convey it as precisely as possible. The best Ravens defensive performances against top quarterbacks in years when the defense wasn't elite.
All right, we're going to have to work on that thumbnail title.
We will work on the title. But I think it's apt for, looking at what we could be looking at here, because the Ravens defense, well, like we're saying, they've got the pieces, they haven't put it quite together yet. So what are some times when the defense exceeded expectations against a top quarterback? There you go. That's more succinct.
There you go. Yeah, look at that.
There we go.
Workshopping it live.
I was going to add with quarterbacks whose names ended cast to the original title.
But yeah, looking forward to that, and we'll see you next week. Go Ravens.
Go Bills.
Bye.
And that's why we edit.
Yeah. That's what I figured.
I'll leave it in.